Welcome to Cosmo Publishing. You just tuned yourself to the coolest place to learn all about self-publishing. We are a turnkey quality service provider, from interior formatting to custom covers and everything in between, including book marketing and advertising. It is the company that books a lot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cosmo Publishing Podcast. I'm your host, Gürhan, co-founder of Cosmo Publishing and Cosmodio books. Together, we work with authors at every stage of their publishing journey, from first-time writers to experienced authors expanding globally. Our focus is simple: clarity, quality, and sustainable publishing strategies that actually work in the real world. At Cosmo Publishing, we provide end-to-end support, including editing, formatting, cover design, distribution, and long-term marketing strategies. Through Cosmodio books, we help authors reach readers across platforms and formats, building visibility and resilience over time. This podcast exists to share what we see every day, behind the scenes, the lessons, the patterns, and the mistakes that almost every author makes at the beginning, and how to learn from them without discouragement. Let's start with an important topic: why first-time author mistakes are normal and valuable. Every first-time author makes mistakes. This is not a flaw in the author, and it is not a sign of failure. It is simply part of entering a complex field without lived experience. Writing a book and publishing a book are two different skill sets, and no one begins with mastery of both. The problem is not that mistakes happen. The problem is that authors are often ashamed of them. Many first-time authors believe they are supposed to get everything right the first time. They assume that experienced authors succeeded because they were smarter, more talented, or more confident from the beginning. In reality, experienced authors are simply authors who have already made their mistakes and survived them. Mistakes are how publishing knowledge is earned. First books are experiments, even when they are written with care and intention. An author cannot fully understand editing timelines, production quality, reader behavior, pricing psychology, or marketing dynamics without going through them firsthand. No amount of research replaces lived experience. This is why first-time mistakes are not only normal, they are necessary. Now, one of the most damaging myths in publishing is that mistakes permanently damage an author's career. In truth, most mistakes are invisible to readers, and those that are visible are rarely remembered. What shapes an author's future is not the absence of mistakes, but how they respond to them. Publishing is iterative. Each book teaches something new. Each release reveals gaps in understanding. Authors who grow are not the ones who avoid mistakes, but the ones who treat mistakes as feedback instead of personal judgment. Another reason first-time mistakes feel heavy is emotional investment. First books often carry years of effort, identity, and hope. When something goes wrong, it can feel like a reflection of self-worth rather than a technical learning moment. This emotional weight makes small issues feel catastrophic. Understanding this emotional layer is important. Publishing decisions feel personal because the work is personal, but the systems around publishing are neutral. Algorithms, distributors, and retailers are not evaluating your value as a writer. They are responding to data, structure, and consistency. When first-time authors accept that mistakes are part of learning the system, pressure begins to lift. Publishing becomes a skill to develop rather than a test to pass. Mistakes also create discernment. An author who has rushed a launch understands pacing better the next time. An author who underinvested in editing understands quality more deeply. An author who expected instant success understands patience differently after experiencing reality. These lessons cannot be fully absorbed secondhand. It is also important to recognize that publishing mistakes are rarely irreversible. Covers can be changed, descriptions can be rewritten, pricing can be adjusted, distribution can expand. Books are not static objects anymore. They are living assets that can be refined over time. This flexibility is one of the most overlooked gifts in modern publishing. First-time authors who see mistakes as permanent often freeze. They stop publishing, stop experimenting, or stop trusting their instincts. First-time authors who see mistakes as data continue. There is no such thing as a perfect first book launch. There is only a first attempt. The authors who build sustainable careers are not the ones who avoided early missteps. They are the ones who allowed those missteps to teach them how publishing actually works. In the next section, we'll look at one of the most common first-time author mistakes, rushing to publish before the book is truly ready, and why patience at the beginning often saves years of frustration later. Let's talk about the first mistake. Actually, one of the greatest mistakes, rushing to publish before the book is truly ready. One of the most common mistakes first-time authors make is rushing to publish before the book is truly ready. This mistake rarely comes from carelessness. It usually comes from excitement, relief, and emotional exhaustion after finishing a manuscript. After months or years of writing, authors want closure. Publishing feels like the finish line. In reality, publishing is not the end of the process. It is the beginning of a different one. For many first-time authors, finishing the draft feels like the hardest part. Once the last chapter is written, there is a strong urge to move quickly, to upload the file, choose a cover, and see the book live. This urgency is often fueled by motivation, fear of losing momentum, or the belief that speed equals success. What gets overlooked is that a finished draft is not the same as a finished book. A manuscript needs distance. Time between writing and publishing allows authors to see the work more clearly. Without that pause, it becomes difficult to spot structural issues, pacing problems, inconsistencies, or areas where clarity is missing. Rushing removes the opportunity for perspective. Another factor is misunderstanding what ready actually means. Many first-time authors assume readiness is about fixing typos. While proofreading is important, readiness is much broader. It includes developmental clarity, logical flow, reader experience, formatting accuracy, and visual presentation. A book can be grammatically clean and still feel unfinished. Editing is often where rushing causes the most damage. First-time authors may skip stages, combine steps, or rely on friends instead of professionals. This is usually driven by budget concerns or the belief that editing is optional. The result is often a book that readers find confusing, uneven, or less polished than expected. Readers may not articulate what feels wrong, but they feel it. Design is another area affected by haste. Covers chosen quickly or designed without understanding genre expectations can undermine discoverability. Formatting rushed at the last minute can lead to errors that distract readers and reduce trust. These issues are not catastrophic, but they compound. There is also a psychological component. Rushing often comes from fear. Fear that the book will never feel perfect. Fear that waiting means procrastination. Fear that delaying publication means failure. This fear creates a false urgency. In truth, taking time to prepare a book properly is not procrastination. It is professionalism. Another consequence of rushing is burnout. When a book is published before it is ready, authors often spend months fixing avoidable issues. Corrections, updates, damage control, and frustration replace the excitement of launch. What should have been a moment of pride becomes a source of stress. Rushing also distorts expectations. Authors who publish quickly often expect immediate validation. When results are underwhelming, disappointment hits harder because the book feels unfinished and exposed. This can damage confidence unnecessarily. It is important to say clearly that readiness does not mean perfection. No book is flawless. Readiness means the book meets professional standards and offers a coherent, enjoyable experience to readers. It means you have done your due diligence. First-time authors benefit greatly from slowing down at this stage. Extra weeks spent revising, editing, testing, formatting, and refining presentation often save months of regret later. The publishing world rewards quality more consistently than speed. Modern publishing allows flexibility. You are not competing for a single launch window. You are building a body of work. Delaying publication to improve quality does not close doors. It strengthens foundations. Authors who resist the urge to rush often describe a different emotional experience at launch. They feel calmer, they feel prepared, they trust the book more. That confidence translates into how they talk about the book and how they engage with readers. The goal is not to publish quickly. The goal is to publish well. In the next section, we'll look at another major first-time mistake, underestimating editing, design, and presentation, and why these elements shape reader trust more than most authors expect. We also need to mention these mistakes. Underestimating editing, design, and presentation. One of the most common and costly mistakes first-time authors make is underestimating the importance of editing, design, and overall presentation. This mistake often comes from a misunderstanding of how readers experience books and how quickly trust is formed or lost. Many authors believe that strong story or valuable content will compensate for rough edges. In reality, presentation is part of the content. Readers do not separate writing from presentation. They experience the book as a whole. Editing is usually the first area where authors underestimate the process. Many first-time authors assume editing means fixing spelling and grammar. While proofreading is important, it is only one layer. Editing includes structure, pacing, clarity, tone, and consistency. A book can be grammatically correct and still feel confusing, repetitive, or uneven. Developmental editing addresses the big picture. It looks at whether the book delivers on its promise, whether ideas flow logically, and whether the reader stays engaged. Skipping this stage often results in books that feel unfocused or incomplete. Readers may not know exactly what is wrong, but they sense it. Line editing focuses on how the writing sounds and reads. This stage refines sentence flow, removes awkward phrasing, and improves readability. Without it, writing can feel heavy or amateur, even if the ideas are strong. Proofreading is the final polish. It catches surface errors that distract readers and break immersion. When proofreading is skipped or rushed, small mistakes accumulate and signal carelessness. One or two errors may be forgiven. Many errors are not. Design is often underestimated even more than editing. Covers, interior layout, and typography shape first impressions instantly. Readers make decisions in seconds. A cover that does not match genre expectations can prevent discovery entirely, regardless of how good the book is. First-time authors sometimes choose covers based on personal taste rather than reader psychology. A cover is not an art project. It is a communication tool. It tells readers what kind of experience to expect. When that message is unclear or misleading, readers move on. Interior formatting also matters. Poor spacing, inconsistent fonts, awkward margins, or hard-to-read layouts create friction. Readers should not have to work to read comfortably. When formatting is sloppy, it breaks immersion and reduces trust. Presentation also includes metadata and descriptions. A beautifully written book with a confusing description struggles to connect with readers. Descriptions must be clear, aligned with genre norms, and written for readers, not for the author's ego. And this is part of presentation, even though it is often overlooked. Underestimating these elements usually comes from budget anxiety or misinformation. Some authors believe professional editing and design are luxuries reserved for traditionally published books. In reality, they are baseline expectations. Readers do not lower standards because a book is independently published. Another factor is emotional attachment. First-time authors are deeply connected to their words and may resist changes. Editing can feel like criticism rather than collaboration. Design feedback can feel personal. Learning to separate identity from the product is a critical skill. There is also a misconception that mistakes are permanent. Authors worry that investing time and money into editing and design locks the book into one version. In modern publishing, books are flexible. They can be updated, improved, and refined. Investing in quality does not trap you. It strengthens the asset. Books with strong editing and presentation perform better long term. They generate better reviews, stronger word of mouth, and more reader trust. They are easier to market because the foundation is solid. Underestimating editing and design often leads to a cycle of frustration. Authors publish quickly, receive weak feedback, then feel discouraged. They assume the book failed because of marketing or audience issues, when in reality the presentation undermined reader confidence. Quality is not about perfection. It is about respect for the reader. It signals that the author cared enough to deliver a professional experience. First-time authors who invest in editing, design, and presentation early often describe a shift in mindset. They stop seeing the book as a fragile creation and start seeing it as a professional product. That shift changes how they talk about the book, how they market it, and how they approach future projects. In publishing, content opens the door, but presentation invites the reader inside. Underestimating that truth is one of the most expensive lessons first-time authors learn. In the next section, we'll look at another common mistake, confusing publishing with marketing, and why visibility requires a different set of skills than production. Let's talk about confusing publishing with marketing. One of the most persistent mistakes first-time authors make is confusing publishing with marketing. These two processes are related, but they are not the same thing. Publishing is about preparing a book for the world. Marketing is about helping the world discover it. When authors blur this distinction, frustration and disappointment often follow. Publishing involves writing, editing, design, formatting, pricing, and distribution. It is the process of creating a professional product that is ready to be read. Marketing begins only after that foundation is in place. It is the ongoing work of visibility, communication, and connection with readers. Many first-time authors assume that once a book is published, marketing will somehow happen automatically. This belief is often reinforced by platform language that emphasizes launching a book. The word launch suggests a single moment of attention, followed by success. In reality, marketing is not an event. It is a process. Another source of confusion is the expectation that publishing platforms act as marketers. Authors upload their books and assume the platform will take responsibility for discovery. While platforms provide access, They do not provide sustained promotion. Algorithms respond to behavior, not effort. They amplify what is already gaining traction. They do not create traction from nothing. This misunderstanding leads authors to overinvest emotionally in launch day. When sales are quiet, they feel blindsided. They assume something went wrong with the book itself, when in fact marketing simply has not begun. Marketing also requires a different skill set than publishing. Publishing rewards precision, structure, and quality control. Marketing rewards clarity, repetition, and patience. Authors who excel at writing are often uncomfortable with marketing because it requires visibility and communication rather than solitude. Another common mistake is treating marketing as self-promotion instead of reader service. First-time authors often resist marketing because they associate it with pressure, exaggeration, or inauthenticity. Effective marketing, however, is about helping the right readers find the right book. It is not about convincing everyone. It is about clarity. Marketing also takes time to work. Readers rarely buy a book the first time they see it. Familiarity builds gradually. This means early marketing efforts often feel invisible. Authors post, share, or advertise and see little response. Without understanding marketing timelines, they interpret silence as failure. Consistency matters more than intensity. A single burst of promotion rarely creates lasting results. Repeated, calm visibility over time builds recognition and trust. This is why authors who expect immediate results from short campaigns often feel discouraged. Another point of confusion is believing that marketing can compensate for weak publishing foundations. Marketing can amplify interest, but it cannot fix poor editing, unclear positioning, or mismatched presentation. When a book fails to convert interest into readers, the issue is often not marketing reach, but publishing quality. First-time authors also underestimate how long marketing lasts. Publishing may take months. Marketing can last years. A book released today can still be marketed tomorrow, next month, and next year. Treating marketing as something that ends after launch limits a book's potential. There is also confusion around tools. Social media, advertising, email lists, and reviews are often seen as shortcuts. In reality, they are channels that require learning and adaptation. No single tool guarantees success. Marketing is cumulative. Another common mistake is comparing marketing outcomes with other authors. Visibility varies widely by genre, audience size, and catalog depth. A debut author cannot expect the same response as an author with 10 books and an established readership. Comparison distorts expectations. Marketing works best when it aligns with the author's temperament. Some authors enjoy social platforms, others prefer email. Some focus on paid advertising, others build slowly through content and relationships. There is no universal strategy. Understanding the difference between publishing and marketing removes unnecessary pressure. Publishing is about readiness. Marketing is about persistence. One prepares the book, the other introduces it repeatedly, over time, to the right audience. When first-time authors stop expecting publishing to perform the job of marketing, frustration decreases. Marketing becomes a skill to learn rather than a judgment on the book's worth. In the next section, we'll explore another first-time mistake, unrealistic expectations about sales and visibility, and how adjusting expectations early can protect motivation and confidence. Our next topic is unrealistic expectations about sales and visibility. One of the most emotionally challenging mistakes first-time authors make is holding unrealistic expectations about sales and visibility. This mistake rarely comes from arrogance. It usually comes from hope, comparison, and misunderstanding how publishing ecosystems actually work. Many first-time authors expect their book to sell immediately once it is published. They imagine launch day as a moment of recognition, validation, and momentum. When that moment arrives, quietly, disappointment sets in quickly. Authors begin questioning the quality of their writing, the value of their work, or their ability to succeed. The truth is that silence at launch is normal. Publishing platforms are crowded environments. Thousands of books are released every day. Visibility is not distributed evenly, and it is not guaranteed. A new book enters a marketplace where readers have endless options and limited attention. Expecting instant traction without an existing audience or marketing foundation sets authors up for emotional shock. Another source of unrealistic expectation is comparison. First-time authors often measure their success against authors who have larger catalogs, established readerships, or years of experience. What they do not see is the long period of invisibility that usually came first. Success stories are often shared without context, making them feel sudden and effortless. Visibility also works differently than authors expect. Being available does not mean being seen. Platforms surface books based on signals, not intention. Those signals take time to build. Reviews accumulate slowly. Reader trust develops gradually. Algorithms respond to patterns, not single events. Sales behavior itself is uneven. Some books sell steadily in small numbers. Others experience occasional spikes. Very few books follow a clean upward trajectory. Authors who expect linear growth often feel discouraged by natural fluctuations. Another common misunderstanding is equating quality with immediate success. While quality matters deeply, it does not guarantee visibility. Many excellent books sell quietly. Many mediocre books sell well due to timing, positioning, or external exposure. Quality supports long-term performance, not instant results. First-time authors also underestimate the role of backlist. One book alone has limited leverage. Multiple books create momentum, cross-promotion, and reader retention. Visibility increases as a catalog grows. Expecting a debut book to carry an entire career creates unnecessary pressure. There is also a misconception that low sales mean failure. In reality, early sales are data, not verdicts. They provide information about positioning, pricing, audience alignment, and messaging. Authors who interpret early numbers as feedback instead of judgment grow faster. Visibility often comes in waves. A book may be unnoticed for months, then suddenly gain attention through reviews, recommendations, or external exposure. Authors who stop promoting or learning too early miss these delayed opportunities. Another emotional trap is believing that publishing success must look dramatic to be meaningful. Quiet progress is still progress. Selling a few copies consistently each month builds confidence and skill. Over time, these small numbers compound. Unrealistic expectations can also damage motivation. Authors who feel disappointed early may stop writing, stop marketing, or disengage from the process entirely. This is not because they lack talent, but because expectations were misaligned with reality. Adjusting expectations does not mean lowering standards or ambition. It means aligning hope with process. Publishing is not a single moment. It is a long conversation between the book and the world. When first-time authors understand that visibility grows through consistency rather than immediacy, pressure decreases. Sales become milestones rather than judgments. Progress becomes visible in learning, not just numbers. Realistic expectations protect confidence. They allow authors to stay engaged long enough for improvement to matter. In the next section, we'll explore Another common first-time mistake, trying to do everything alone, and why support and collaboration often make the difference between burnout and sustainability. Here's an important topic for authors: trying to do everything alone. One of the most exhausting mistakes first-time authors make is trying to do everything alone. This mistake often comes from good intentions. Authors want to save money, protect their vision, or prove they are capable. Unfortunately, this mindset frequently leads to burnout, stalled progress, and unnecessary frustration. Writing a book already requires significant mental and emotional energy. When authors then attempt to also become editors, designers, formatters, marketers, and distributors simultaneously, the workload becomes unsustainable. Publishing is not a single skill. It is a collection of specialized disciplines, each requiring experience and perspective. Many first-time authors underestimate how much invisible labor publishing involves. Beyond writing, there are decisions about structure, pacing, cover psychology, reader expectations, metadata, pricing, and distribution. Attempting to master all of this at once often results in shallow knowledge across many areas instead of strength in any one. Another reason authors try to do everything alone is fear of losing control. They worry that outside help will dilute their voice or compromise their intentions. In reality, collaboration often strengthens clarity. Editors, designers, and publishing professionals do not replace the author's voice. They help refine it. Budget concerns also play a role. First-time authors may feel they cannot afford professional support. While financial limitations are real, the cost of doing everything alone often appears later in the form of poor reviews, weak visibility, or stalled sales. Saving money up front can create higher costs emotionally and strategically. Trying to do everything alone also slows learning. When authors work with professionals, they gain insight into industry standards and best practices. Collaboration accelerates understanding. Working in isolation limits feedback and reinforces blind spots. There is also an emotional toll. Publishing decisions carry weight, and making them alone can feel overwhelming. Without perspective, small setbacks feel catastrophic. With support, challenges become manageable and contextualized. Another issue is time. Authors who handle every task themselves often delay future projects. Writing momentum is lost, while technical problems consume attention. Careers stall not because of lack of ideas, but because energy is drained by tasks outside the author's strengths. It is important to say clearly that collaboration does not require a large team or unlimited budget. Support can be strategic. It may involve hiring one professional at a critical stage, seeking peer feedback, or working with a publishing service that consolidates expertise. The goal is not dependency, but balance. Publishing alone also increases the risk of tunnel vision. Without external input, authors may miss obvious issues or misjudge reader experience. Fresh eyes catch problems the author can no longer see. The most sustainable author careers are rarely solo efforts. Even traditionally published authors rely on teams. Self-published authors who succeed long-term build networks of support, whether formal or informal. Letting go of the need to do everything alone is not weakness. It is maturity. It signals that the author understands publishing is a professional ecosystem, not a personal trial. First-time authors who accept support often rediscover joy in the process. Writing becomes creative again. Publishing becomes manageable. Progress becomes visible. In the next section, we'll look at another long-term mistake, ignoring strategy and backlist thinking, and why first books matter most for what they build, not what they earn immediately. How about talking about author strategy, like ignoring long-term strategy and backlist thinking? One of the most limiting mistakes first-time authors make is focusing only on the first book and ignoring long-term strategy and backlist thinking. This usually happens because the first book carries enormous emotional weight. It represents effort, identity, and hope. Authors want it to succeed immediately, and when it does not, discouragement follows. What many authors do not realize is that the first book is rarely the most important book in a career. It is the foundation. Publishing rewards accumulation more than individual moments. A single book has limited leverage. Multiple books create context, credibility, and continuity. Backlist titles work together, supporting discovery and sustaining visibility over time. Authors who view publishing as a long-term system rather than a single event tend to build stronger, more resilient careers. Ignoring long-term strategy often leads authors to treat the first book as a final verdict. If sales are low, they assume the book failed. In reality, the book may simply be early. Without additional titles to point readers forward or backward, momentum stalls. Backlist thinking changes how authors interpret results. Instead of asking whether one book succeeded, authors ask how each book contributes to the larger body of work. A modestly selling book can still be valuable if it introduces readers to a series, establishes authority, or improves discoverability for future releases. Another aspect of long-term strategy is learning. Each book teaches lessons about audience, positioning, pricing, and presentation. Authors who plan for multiple books use early releases as learning tools rather than tests of worth. And this mindset reduces pressure and increases adaptability. First-time authors often underestimate how discoverability compounds. A reader who finds book 3 may go back and purchase books 1 and 2. A strong backlist allows readers to stay longer once they enter the ecosystem. Without it, even successful discovery leads to short engagement. Long-term thinking also affects creative decisions. Authors who plan ahead write with continuity in mind. Themes, tone, and branding become clearer over time. This consistency builds trust with readers and strengthens recognition. Another mistake is assuming marketing only applies to new releases. Backlist titles benefit greatly from ongoing optimization. Covers can be updated, descriptions can be refined, pricing can be adjusted, older books can be repositioned to serve new strategies. Treating books as static objects limits their lifespan. Ignoring long-term strategy can also lead to burnout. Authors who expect immediate success from one book often feel crushed when results are slow. Authors who expect to build over time are more patient. They understand that careers grow through repetition, not miracles. Backlist thinking also protects creativity. When pressure is spread across multiple projects, no single book carries the burden of success. This freedom often leads to better writing and more sustainable output. Another important element of strategy is goal alignment. Some authors want steady supplemental income. Others want full-time careers. Some want a creative expression. Others want business growth. Long-term planning allows authors to choose strategies that support their specific goals instead of chasing generic success. Publishing platforms reward consistency. Authors who release regularly and maintain catalogs tend to see gradual increases in visibility. This is not because platforms favor them personally, but because consistent output creates signals over time. Ignoring long-term strategy often means ignoring the future reader. Readers rarely discover an author at the very beginning. They arrive mid-journey. A strong backlist ensures there is somewhere to go next. The most successful authors are not those whose first book exploded, but those who kept publishing after the first book whispered. In the final section, we'll bring these lessons together and focus on turning early mistakes into a sustainable author mindset that supports growth rather than perfection. Well, we have been talking about the mistakes, but let's finish our podcast a brighter topic, turning mistakes into a sustainable author mindset. Every mistake discussed in this episode points to one deeper truth. Publishing success is not built on getting everything right the first time. It is built on developing a mindset that can absorb feedback, adapt to reality, and continue forward without losing confidence or clarity. A sustainable author mindset begins with reframing mistakes. Instead of seeing them as evidence of failure, successful authors treat mistakes as information. Each misstep reveals something about the process, the audience, or the system itself. When mistakes are viewed as data, they lose their emotional sting and gain practical value. One of the most important shifts first-time authors can make is separating identity from outcome. A book's performance is not a verdict on talent, intelligence, or worth. It is simply a snapshot of how that book performed under specific conditions at a specific time. Those conditions can change, skills improve, context evolves. Another key element of sustainability is patience. Publishing rewards consistency more than intensity. Authors who expect rapid validation often burn out when results are slow. Authors who expect gradual progress stay engaged long enough to benefit from compounding effort. Patience is not passive, it is strategic endurance. A sustainable mindset also includes realistic self-compassion. First-time authors often hold themselves to impossible standards while extending grace to others. Learning to speak to yourself as you would to a fellow author reduces shame and keeps motivation intact. Harsh self-judgment rarely leads to better work. Adaptability is another core trait. Publishing systems change. Reader behavior shifts. What works today may not work tomorrow. Authors who cling rigidly to one approach struggle. Authors who remain curious and flexible evolve alongside the industry. Mistakes often signal where adaptation is needed. It is also important to normalize growth curves. No author arrives fully formed. Confidence grows through repetition. Clarity develops through experimentation. A sustainable mindset accepts that early work is part of the path, not something to hide from or regret. Support systems matter deeply. Authors with sustainable careers rarely operate in isolation. They seek feedback, share experiences, and learn from others. This does not mean comparison, it means connection. Shared perspective reduces distortion and builds resilience. Another mindset shift involves redefining success. Instead of measuring success only through sales or visibility, sustainable authors track learning, consistency, and creative fulfillment. These internal metrics keep progress visible even when external results lag. Mistakes also teach discernment. Over time, authors learn which advice to follow, which tools to use, and which paths align with their goals. Discernment cannot be rushed. It is earned through experience, including missteps. A sustainable author mindset embraces long-term thinking. Careers are built book by book, not launch by launch. Each project contributes to skill, clarity, and audience understanding. When authors see their work as cumulative, pressure eases and momentum strengthens. Finally, sustainability requires permission to continue imperfectly. Waiting to feel ready or confident enough often leads to stagnation. Growth happens through action. Mistakes will occur. That is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that learning is happening. Turning mistakes into strength is not about avoiding them in the future. It is about responding to them differently. When authors learn to meet mistakes with curiosity instead of judgment, publishing becomes less about proving worth and more about building a body of work. That shift is where real careers begin.
Welcome to Cosmo Publishing. You just tuned yourself to the coolest place to learn all about self-publishing. We are a turnkey quality service provider, from interior formatting to custom covers and everything in between, including book marketing and advertising. It is the company that books a lot.